Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning into TradeChat. My name is Panzer.
I'm Niko.
That's Niko. And last night, I was browsing the internet and saw on Wowhead that in 7.3.5, players will be able to buy an item using Awakening Essences called Purified Titan Essence, which will, be turned intoable.
Yeah.
You use it, and it becomes a legendary of your specialization.
But it is a random legendary.
It is a random legendary, and it's in a random slot, but you get to pick the specialization.
Yeah.
So if you're someone so I've had very bad luck with legendaries in this expansion, and I just got, I believe Roots of Shaladrisil is what is considered to be the best in-slot legendary for Rest of Shaman, but I always wanted the Praetorian Tide Colors. They were my best in-slot 2 tiers ago, and I wanted them, and they didn't drop for me until
Never got them.
No, I got them 2 weeks ago, remember?
Yeah, till last week.
Yeah, till last week. And now they're not even best in slot anymore. So I've had some bad luck. I don't even think I have all of the Resto ones yet, and I have not a single legendary for either of my off specs.
And I recently switched mains, so obviously don't have all of my legendaries either because I switched freaking characters.
Yeah. He was playing a druid, a guardian. Oh, I still call guardian druids feral druids. It's not.
I played a bear.
He played a bear.
Now I'm playing a disease-ridden knight.
Oh, a death knight.
Mm-hmm.
A death knight. So what you're still targeting for? You still need legendaries, right? Specifically, need them.
Well, no, I have 2. So I have the BIS legendary for Unholy, the shoulders. But Cold Heart is the second BIS for both Unholy and Frost, and I played my Death Knight a lot as Frost, and then switched to Unholy, and then I've raided for 2 months as Unholy, and still no Cold Heart.
Yeah, well,
and all of my what are those?
Veiled Arcanite?
All of it is gone to chest since the beginning of since
Have you
August.
ever had any luck with that? Turning in. What about when it was Nether Shards? I didn't. I got one on my Demon Hunter on stream. You guys were there for that. I did get one legendary before Argus was out from Nether Shards on an alt, but my main has never gotten a legendary from one of those catch-up mechanics, and she has definitely handed in way more Nether Shards and Veiled Arcanite than any of my other characters.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. The Nether Shards were, I was on my Druid at the time, and I was, at one point, farming them. I mean, I wasn't going crazy. I think I probably handed in 6 or 7. They were 5,000 each, right? I think I did it 6 or 7 times all to get the wrists, the loofah wraps. Never got them. Still never got them. Ended up switching mains before getting them.
All right.
It is what it is.
That's a funny name for a legendary. Just side note, I think of loofah, and it's the thing you wash yourself with in the shower. So just think of a bear being like, "You will be clean." You will be clean. So with the new system for catching up, which goes live in 7.3.5, which should be pretty soon because there's some data in 7.3.5 for these new scarab bug mounts, which are going to be part of the opening of Anchorage World Event mini holiday thing, which I believe goes live on the 21st or the 23rd, something like that. So that's probably around the same time that 7.3.5 is going live. So this is really, really soon. And you'll be able to turn in 175 of the Awakening Essences, which we're currently using 50 of them to upgrade our 970 legendaries to 1,000. How many of those have you upgraded? Do you know?
5.
I think I've done 3 or 4. I don't think I've done 5. I think I've done 3 or 4. Although
no, you know what? It was 4, and then I got a legendary, which automatically came at 1,000.
Yeah, well, I've got
5 total.
I've actually gotten 2 legendaries that were 1,000 because I got the quest turn-in one that you get for doing Antorus, and then I got the Roots of Shaladrisil was my first 1,000 item level upgrade, and that dropped out of Antorus for me. But so on Wowhead, I looked it up, and it said that you get 20 of these Awakened Essences for doing a Mythic Plus every week out of your chest, which Niko and I don't do Mythic Pluses. We're the only WoW players in the world who are just over it. You're shaking the camera something fierce. You're like an elemental shaman with Earthquake right now.
Yep. I never really liked Mythic Pluses. I liked it up to a certain point, but I think where they really lost me was the affixes. It really reminded me of Diablo and put a level of RNG into Mythic Pluses that I was just not worth it.
So you would have preferred just it to get harder, but not for the affixes to change.
Yeah.
Almost like old challenge modes.
Yeah, which a lot of people think that that method of doing things is boring or it's it's not interesting because it's the same thing every week, but That's just me.
I don't know.
Maybe it's just that some of the affixes are like that I would just rather certain affixes not be in there. And I can't tell you like specific ones, but there are just some that I'm sure everybody knows are like super annoying.
Everybody knows it. He knows it. She knows it. It is known. I also am not a big fan of Mythic Pluses. I feel like there's a lot of hype around them and people always talk them up, and then I feel like I'm the outlier that just, I don't enjoy them. I've maybe gotten 3 of the chests of like the Mythic Plus chests the whole time I've played WoW. I did get the achievement the other day. I was doing mythics to catch up on balance of power. Because my shaman was really far behind on balance of power for some reason. I don't remember why, because I don't do mythics. And so I started to catch up on it and realized now that was a big mistake, because now I don't have any of the items from Nighthold, despite the fact that we ran Nighthold approximately 7,000 times. So that's really disappointing. But anyways, I got the achievement for doing every single dungeon Mythic Plus like 4 days ago. Garbage. I'm absolute garbage. So
I don't think I even have it.
Anyways, the way that you can get these Awakening Essences is the best way to get them is from your weekly Mythic Plus chest. You get 20 of them, but it doesn't matter what level Mythic Plus you do. So I think I'm going to make it a point now to do just like a Mythic Plus 1, just so that I get the 20 Awakened Essences. Then in LFR, Normal, Heroic, and Mythic and Taurus, you have a chance at getting 3 to 6 bosses per week 3 to 6 per boss per lockout. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get 3 to 6 per boss per lockout, but you might. Emissary caches drop between 4 and 10. Again, they don't always drop them though. Your daily Legion random heroic will give you 5. And there's also weekly PvP rewards, which I don't really PvP, but apparently if you earn 1,500 honor in 2s, 3s, or rated battlegrounds, you can get 7 from each one of those feats.
Interesting.
If you do all 7 emissaries for the week, if you do a full clear of Taurus and a Mythic Plus, as well as a daily heroic every day, and all 3 of your PvP weeklies, you'll earn on average 175 a week, which is how much you need to buy a legendary. So. Yeah. In theory, this is a great way to catch up, because you're still going to have your chances to get them out in the world and from emissaries and stuff like legendaries, that is. But then you also, if you really put the effort in, which really isn't that much. It sounds like a lot when you say it out loud, but it's really not. Like one Mythic Plus a week, 1 random dungeon a day. I probably wouldn't ever do the PvP ones, just being totally honest. But
earning 1,500 honor in 2s, then 3s, then RBGs, like that is probably the biggest time sink of all of them.
And you only get 7 from each, so you're only pulling 21 total from those 3. So unless you're a regular PvPer, I'm not sure that it's worth it to do those. But I'll definitely, for 20 from your Mythic Plus, I genuinely did not know that. I feel like I should know that, but I didn't know that. It's because I see Mythic Plus and my eyes just glaze over. So that's how you can get the Awakening Essences, and they should be not too bad to farm if that's something that you need to catch up on. I'll definitely be targeting off-spec legendaries. I've been playing the spaghetti spec of Shaman lately, and like I said, I've been using just all spec or resto legendaries because that's all I have to choose from. I really want the gloves and the wrists.
Yeah. I'm going to get that cold heart eventually.
I'm going to get that. We'll see. What else we got going on here? So, in general, how have you felt... Like, how do you feel about this catch-up mechanism? Do you feel like it's too little, too late? Do you feel like it's good timing? Do you feel like it's too easy to get legendaries, too hard? What are your thoughts?
Well, I feel like the timing is intentional, right? The last raid's out. It's been cleared by a high-end raid.
It's been cleared 20 times on Mythic so far, I believe.
All I meant is that it's been killed at least once. Last raid's out, it's killed at least once. So therefore, the competitive aspect of raiding is over, for the most part.
Thanks, Method.
There's still people obviously pushing to get that, but like the number 1, the world 1, like it's done. So at this point, like the, elite players might call it the harm to the late game raiding is minimized.
Well, it doesn't matter. All those players probably have all their legendaries
by this catch up. Yeah, well, that's the point, is having people who didn't put that time in be able to play at that level before they, quote-unquote, earned it. So, like, that won't happen, which is good. I personally think that, like, it's late. Like, I wish this would have happened, like, at the beginning of Nighthold.
I think
even midway, like, maybe not at the same time as Nighthold launched, but, like, after Nighthold rather than after the, and Taurus got cleared.
My big issue with Legion Legendaries, and this doesn't really pertain to one patch or another, is that it's been so RNG the whole time that, like, I didn't get my first Legendary until, like, after Christmas last year when the expansion came out in August. And I mean, I play the game a lot. More than the average person, less than a hardcore player. But still, I've put a good amount of time into World of Warcraft, and I don't feel like they kind of advertise legendaries as, oh, you can get them just doing whatever, playing the game. You should just be able to play the game how you want and earn them. And that wasn't really the truth. What they really meant was you can get them if you do Mythic Pluses. You can get them if you spam heroics. You can get them if you do these very specific things. And as somebody who, as I've gotten older, I don't want to play the game to anybody else's standard. I want to play it how I have fun. And I've always felt like a little bit held back this expansion because I mean, you look at other people and you're just like, oh, well, am I doing bad because I don't have these two specific legendaries? Am I doing bad because I don't have the last tier in all mythic with these two legendaries? Would I be doing significant? Because you'll see people who, before they have their legendaries, they're on the bottom of the DPS meters and with no other gear, but then they have their optimal legendaries top of the DPS meters. And I just think that's really, like, upsetting as a player. Like, nobody should feel so gated by... Like, gear shouldn't matter that much. Like, it should obviously matter, but not, like, such specific gear, I guess.
So my whole thing on legendaries in this expansion as a whole is that they definitely tried to, like, pitch them as exciting. Like, it's gonna be, like, the best thing ever when you get one, and, like, they're gonna be awesome, and, like, all this other stuff, but... For me, like, in every expansion, I get 3 to 5 characters of, like, LFR or normal to heroic rating gear. Like, 3 to 5 tunes every single expansion. And to me, like, it actually took a lot of fun out of this expansion because it made it so that I could not play alts.
Yeah.
Which is very unfortunate because, like, I have a full-time job. Like, I'm at work 40 hours a week. I'm commuting for another 5. Like, I have, like, responsibilities outside of work. I don't have the time commitment to farm, like, to and when I say farm legendaries, I mean, like, you're spending months to get one. Like, that's just not the type of time sink that I'm looking for in World of Warcraft. And I think that, like, I think that doing that not only, like, hurt me playing other characters, but also made me not want to change specs. So, like, it was, like, a twofold, like, kind of, like, cut the fun out of the legs for me.
So...
Cut the legs out from under the fun.
Yeah, 2 points to that. One, I think that, like, you can earn legendaries faster if you're willing to do content that you don't consider to be fun. Like, I think that if you're willing to just spam run dungeons and do nothing else until you get a legendary, you'll get it a lot faster than somebody who is doing their other things that they want to do in game. That being said, I could not agree with you more, especially about changing specs. I've always been someone in Raid who played Elemental or Resto, whatever was needed. Primarily Resto, but I was always willing to go Elemental, and I haven't wanted to this whole expansion because I can't compete with the other Elemental Shamans because they have... They're perfect legendaries, and I just have such a problem with legendaries being so mandatory when they were supposed to be fun. And I'm happy that they're going away in Battle for Azeroth. We're not going to have legendaries in the way that they exist now, though Ian has said that they're open to the idea of a legendary or a small amount of legendaries. So I got to looking at old expansions, and I have this whole crazy, like, 3-page document here, and I learned a lot.
Before we get into previous legendaries, it seems to me like with the whole legendary system and artifacts, like, there's been, like you mentioned, the previous expansions, like, it feels like since the beginning of WoW they've been trying to, like, build, like, a new system to add, like, a level of complexity and fun onto, like, the base game. Originally we had, like, 30 plus point talent trees that, are kind of reminiscent of, like, Relic.
Yeah.
And then, obviously talents now, but talents now are not even close.
Yeah, talents now are very watered down.
Talents now seem like they might as well all be passive almost. Like, when we had really long talent trees, like 30 plus. They said they wanted to get rid of it because like they were cookie cutter and like the high end was doing specific talents to maximize DPS.
Yeah.
They didn't change that at all.
Yeah,
and I feel like they took out a lot of customizability to go to a new system to fail to do what they were trying to do.
Yeah, kind of. I think that they had brought some of that back with glyphs. Like, I think that, like, initially when they had pruned talent trees, you had all these options that glyphs did things to your spells. Like, you could use Chain Lightning when you were moving, or maybe this thing would proc twice. But then with the removal of major glyphs, then you're just down to what is kind of essentially the bare bones artifact system, but everybody gets all of the talents in the artifact tree.
I totally
so then
forgot.
Then you're left down to just the Netherlight Crucible, which is a terrible system.
Yeah.
Whoever developed that needs a long, hard look in the mirror.
I totally forgot about glyphs. Like, they put glyphs into the game and
I don't
just took glyphs right out of the game.
It's really upsetting because I'm a scribe. Nobody buys glyphs because, like, you buy your minor glyphs that you only need to use once, and then as a scribe, like, everybody makes their own guild runes. Like, scribes do not make money. It is a useless profession that is only for the benefit of you and your friends, and you do not make any money.
Yeah.
And you're using all of your herbs for your glyphs, for your friends, for your guilds. Like, I'm really, like, they gutted Inscription and just pretended like that didn't happen, and it's very upsetting.
Yeah, so that, you know, they have had a lot of different systems, from expanded talents to glyphs to, I don't know what was in the middle, but now we're in, like, legendaries and artifacts, and then we're going into Battle Azeroth. It feels like everything that they've tried before, gone.
No, not really, because Heart of Azeroth is really...
they've kind of, they're it's evolving into Heart of Azeroth, and I'm just worried that it's going to be... It's going to have the same problems as every other system they've tried.
I mean, how much do you know about Heart of Azeroth?
Not much. That's the point. So, I'm excited.
Well, there's quite a bit of information out already. So when you get your amulet, like, it will affect different pieces of gear, like your shoulders and your chest and maybe your pants. And then those will all have different, like, they're like a ring, and you can only pick one on each ring. So we'll see if it ends up being cookie cutter. What I'm most interested in seeing is what they're going to do with these abilities and these procs that were on legendaries that are being removed from the game, or part of your artifact gives you different abilities and different procs and stuff. I'm interested to see what gets baked in and what gets completely cut, because, like, right now, a good example is Elemental Shaman. Their artifact ability makes their next 2 or 3 Chain Lightning or Lightning Bolt instant cast and free of resource. I don't even know if it's Maelstrom or mana, but whatever. And that's, like, hugely important for Elemental Shaman's AoE damage, particularly. And it also added back in, like I said, Elemental Shaman used to be able to run while they were doing Chain Lightning, or Lightning Bolt rather. And I'm really interested to see what abilities they end up tying in, because none of our previous legendaries really had those types of feel. I mean, we had the Ring and Warlords of Draenor, but that was like a raid-wide shared cooldown. It's not like anybody personally lost anything. Everybody lost everything. We had the Cloaks and Mists of Pandaria, but with the way those 2 expansions set up legendaries, everybody who put effort in had a legendary. It's not like it was a benefit to any one person, because I at the time in Mists of Pandaria, that was the expansion that I, like, didn't even have a guild for most of the expansion because the tank went to jail for stealing a car.
Well, that's kind of like that is kind of, that's not really much different than now. Like, everyone has, like, at least a legendary now.
But everybody had the same legendary is what I mean. Like, in Mists of Pandaria, every spec had a legendary, and you'd all have the same legendary, whereas now there's every class has like 30 or 40 legendaries, and then each spec has so many legendaries, and it's I would love to know the mathematical, because it's like the chance of having this one and this one is...
Yeah. All right, so we're going to basically hit rewind here, and we're going to go all the way back to vanilla. And we're going to talk about, like, the different legendaries that they've put in the game throughout all the different expansions, how they worked, how you got them,
Yeah, it was really interesting, too, because I thought more of the legendaries from the past were unobtainable, but alas, they are not. So Sulfurious Hand of Ragnaros was a two-handed mace that you could get in vanilla. It was considered to be like a status symbol weapon. You get it by doing a very long quest chain. It was very expensive at the time. Not many people had it, but it is still obtainable. You can still get it now.
Yep.
Then, of course, Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Windseeker.
Yep. And those are the only two, like, real, like, official, like, legendaries for vanilla.
No, ATS was also in vanilla.
Yes.
ATS was a very long quest line, but when they removed Nax 40, that you could no longer complete the quest. So anybody who has ATS has it, but you can't get it anymore.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean in vanilla. I meant at launch.
Yes.
But yeah, so those two were the ones that are available at launch. Yeah, when Nax came out, there was ATS was
To be
added.
fair, this is him basing it on memory. I have no factual confirmation that they were in launch. So nerds, calm down if he's a little bit wrong. It's 14 years ago. Give him a break. Continue.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, those were interesting. Like, I did play in vanilla, and they really were a status symbol, and I think that's like kind of the allure of legendaries as a whole. It's certainly why, you know, everybody thinks so highly of them, is because they were so rare and so coveted for such a long time.
They so cool, man. Well, Thunder Fury is like... my name is TradeChat.
I mean,
my
it's a
channel
meme.
is TradeChat. It's a meme at this
It's a
point.
meme now.
My favorite thing about Thunder Fury, though, is how it's actually a meme in the Blizzard universe as well. Like, they made the inflatable Thunder Fury that you can get during the holiday, the anniversary event. And also in Diablo, there's the Thunder Fury Blessed Blade of the Windseeker, and the flavor text implies that it's the same sword. Like, it's like, this sword has gone through multiple dimensions to end up in the realm of, you know, it's like really funny how they kind of did that, and I appreciate it a lot. And I think my wizard has 2 Thunder Furies equipped currently.
Yeah, and the Sulfurious Hand of Ragnaros. Now, that was like, that was goals in vanilla, because I had two max level characters. I had a hunter and I had
a shaman. Yeah.
My shaman was enhancement, born and bred, level 1 to 60, never respect, nothing, like enhancement all day, every day. And
all day, baby.
A Wind Fury proc with a 2-hander in PvP.
Wait, you started out by talking about Sulfurous.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about Wind Fury. Oh!
Wind Fury's not the same.
Ignore me. I'm like having a moment here.
A Wind Fury proc with a 2-hander, like Sulfurous, in PvP was the single most satisfying thing in all of vanilla WoW, in my opinion.
It was also... You didn't have it.
It's like,
though,
look at me, I'm just swinging this big slow hammer. Blah, 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 you're dead.
Okay, so first of all, I would like
You're
to say, Wind Fury... I thought you were talking about Thunder Fury for a second, because I'm slow. I'm not a smart person. You didn't have either of those, though, right?
I did not have any legendaries.
So,
no.
Interesting fact. Sulfurious Hand of Ragnaros had the highest DPS and the highest raw DPS, like the highest raw damage. Like, it was the highest damaging weapon, and people were even using it in the beginning of Burning Crusade because it was so powerful that until people were really kind of deep into raiding, it was still worth using.
That was like the only expansion where some of your highest tier raiding gear from the previous was good into raiding in the next expansion.
But like as soon as you replaced it with a raid weapon, it was
gone like
better.
The first raid weapon you could find, but still.
But now you replace
really
your weapons with greens, blues.
That the weapon would last you the entire leveling experience, and like I honestly liked that.
Putting that on hold, that's what I really liked about artifacts this expansion. I actually liked the artifact system. I hated artifact power, and I think they could have done better. But based on how they're doing Heart of Azeroth, the pendant, Azerite is all passive. You'll just collect it when you're near it. It automatically absorbs into your pendant, and your pendant changes spec with you, so you don't have to farm it on 3 different specs. So everything I hated about artifact power is fixed with Azerite, so I'm really looking forward to Heart of Azeroth.
Do you want to hear probably the most unpopular opinion about WoW that I have?
Ooh, yes. I have a lot of unpopular opinions.
I wish transmog wasn't in the game. Yep. I honest to God wish that transmog did not exist and was never implemented. Yep.
Why?
Because you can't tell what people are wearing.
Just inspect them.
Nope.
It's called fashion, Niko. Look it up.
Nope. That's my unpopular opinion of the day.
Okay, I wish you hadn't told
and
me
it tied into what you were saying about artifact weapons and how you like them and leveling up with them. Like, one of the things that I really enjoyed was, like, when you got a new piece of gear or when you got a new weapon and you'd be walking around with it and people would be like, whoa, or like, cool, or like, blah, blah, blah. And like, yes, now you can like transmog into that if you want.
Well,
or
I
not
mean, to be fair, since we're talking about legendaries.
I just don't like it as much.
To be fair, since we're talking about legendaries, there's really, with the exception of Warglaves of Azeroth, with the special item you can get from time walking, none of these items can be transmogged anyways.
Yeah.
To or from.
Yep.
Well, technically the Mists of Pandaria cloak can be transmogged, but it's not the wing effect. It's just the ugly cloak, so no one cares. Also in vanilla was the Talisman of the Binding Shard, which is kind of a meme of an item in WoW, because I guess it wasn't supposed to drop. It was like a GM item or a test item. It dropped one time, one player got it, and then it was removed from all loot tables. And then there was also the Black Karaji Resonating crystal, which was, we were just talking about the bug mounts in AQ, and this was a black version of that bug mount that could only be obtained through this really long quest line, which ended in the opening of Ahn'Qiraj, and when the event was over, you could never get it again. And what's interesting is that there's actually a new model for the black one, so a lot of people think that they're going to recreate that during the
when AQ opens back
event.
Up. Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting. Also, you were talking...
Not surprising.
We were talking a little bit about artifact weapons, and I feel like this is a good time to mention it, that in 7.3.5, we're retiring our artifact weapons. And the cutscene and stuff is now... I haven't watched it because I don't want to watch it until it's in-game. I don't want to ruin it for myself. But the cutscene is out. You can learn all about, like, what is going to happen to our weapons and how they'll be affected. But we're certainly not going to be using our artifact weapons in the way that we are using them now. In the beginning of next expansion. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but I'm looking forward to not having... I've had to wear a shield on all of my specs. Go ahead.
Follow-up question. Plus, your fans already know that you hate shields. It's not the first time you've talked about that.
It's not that I hate shields, it's just...
Moving on. Do you know what they're doing? Like, when they take our artifact weapons in 7.3.5? Like, do we get a regular weapon?
I don't want to, spoil it, because it's all part of, like, the cutscene in the quest line.
Okay.
You'll find out soon, TM. I'll probably... Right. I did a video about what we knew until this most recent PTR patch, so if you're interested in that, I'll have it linked in the info below. It gives a good idea of what happens to it, but...
They're gonna give me a shoddy wooden training sword.
No, I don't think so. I think they're basically gonna be like powering down your artifact weapon, and I don't think you'll be able to like add artifact power to it anymore or anything like that. But I'm 100% not sure because I haven't watched the cutscene, so I don't want to lie to you.
No spoilers for us.
So then in Wrath of the Lich King, we had Valinir, Hammer of the Ancient Kings, which was a healing mace. We had Shadow Morn, of course, which was the iconic crafted Death Knight sword, and then probably most interesting,
axe.
Oh, it's like I knew that, but also I.
Happens.
It's like Shadowmourne, Frostmourne. I just always think it's a sword.
Frostmourne's a sword. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, though, there was another legendary weapon which showed up in the Wrath data on the armory, but was never in-game, called Crafty's Pole, which was a legendary fishing pole. Mm-hmm. And when people found it on the armory, they went crazy on the forums, so Blizzard just removed it from the armory and kind of was just like all hush-hush and whatever about it. So it's kind of unclear if this was just a GM thing for testing or if it was maybe the very first baby idea incarnation of the artifact fishing pole, which
I mean, there's no mistakes there. It existed as a weapon.
Yeah.
A dev at Blizzard was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm making the silliest legendary ever. A fishing pole.
Crafty's fishing pole.
Yeah. Who's crafty?
I don't know. Anyways, this is a good time to mention, too, that your artifact fishing pole is not going anywhere. You'll be able to keep your artifact fishing pole. It's not being powered down. You'll still get to use those abilities.
Can you still obtain it?
All artifacts are still obtainable after the expansion.
Ooh.
The only things that won't be obtainable is the Mythic plus 15 unlock. If you do the Mage Tower and you haven't done a Mythic plus 15, you can't earn the plus 15 after the fact. But if you do the plus 15 and then do the Mage Tower before Legion ends, you'll still get the plus 15, even if you don't do it again. Anyways, the only things you can't actually get that we know of are the Mage Tower after Legion and the +15 after Legion.
Well, and those are just achievements. Those aren't items.
Well, it's because they're like balanced. Well,
Right.
they're artifact appearances. They're appearances.
Right.
So you can't obtain those appearances anymore, but you'll be able to obtain all the artifacts and all the other artifact appearances.
Yeah, no. As long as you can still get the fishing pole and use the abilities in a future expansion is what I was wondering.
Oh, you're still talking about the fishing pole. Yes. Your fishing pole will remain as your fishing pole. So back to...
I don't care about appearances, clearly. I hate transmog.
We skipped over Burning Crusade. I went straight to Wrath, but in Burning Crusade there were the Warglaives of Azeroth and the Thoradal the Star's Fury. Thoradal was a hunter bow that drops in... It drops off of Kil'jaeden in Sunwell.
So bad.
I got it on a character recently. Like I ran it and I got it on like a really random non-hunter character, of course. And then Warglaives are probably the most iconic.
They're probably the most
weapon.
recognizable.
I've got some hanging up on my wall over there. But what's interesting is that when they did the time walking of Black Temple, they added this item that if you already owned the Warglaives, you could go through and do Black Temple again, and they would give you a transmog version of the Warglaives. And now we've got Ulduar time walking coming out, and they're not doing the same thing with Valinir Hammer of the Ancient Kings, which I just kind of talked about too early. But they're not doing anything with that, and I'm not sure if it's because Warglaives just dropped and Valinir was a quest, but in my opinion, if you go through and do the whole quest for Valinir, why does it matter? Like, you should definitely... I think if they do it for one, they should do it for all of them.
I think that you should just be able to transmog them to begin with. If transmog exists as a system, why take legendaries out of it?
Well, especially since silly. They're the most show-offy weapons and stuff like that there are.
If there was anything that I would say, transmog's worth having in the game, it would be to transmog a legendary, which you can't do. So.
In Cataclysm, Cataclysm and Mists were like slower expansions for me because I didn't have stable guilds in either of those expansions. But in Cataclysm, Terragosa, Dragonwrath Terragosa's Rest was the staff for casters, and Fangs of the Father were daggers for rogues. Both of those were quest chains that still can be completed if you want to. Terragosa was cool because she also had like a little pet, and there's like the big thing that appears in, I can't speak for Stormwind, but I'm sure it does, but in Orgrimmar there's this big like runic circle that appears anytime someone gets Terragosa. Have you seen it? What were you going to say?
Do you know if Fangs of the Father are related to Fangs of Ashmain, the legendary druid?
No.
Weapons?
No. Ashmain was like a cat druid. Yeah. And Fangs of the Father is all rogue stuff. It's all rogue related. I don't think it has anything to do with Fangs of Ashmain.
Ashmain could have been the father of something. You never know.
I think Ashmain's a female.
We're not gonna take Nick's word on lore at all.
Don't do that. Let's just pretend he didn't say any of those things. Nick doesn't know
shit about lore.
Mists of Pandaria was the first time that we got the like everybody gets a legendary quest line, and I liked it. I liked this. It could all be earned in LFR and stuff. So if you weren't someone who was able to do raids at a super high level, you could still earn your legendary. So I was happy to be able to do that. And I loved the effects. I wish you could transmog the effects. They're amazing. It's funny because my sister and her husband didn't really start playing WoW until last expansion, and I took a screenshot the other day of my panda wearing her like Mist of Pandaria wings and bunny ears and like slutty transmog looking ridiculous. And they were both like, "Where'd you get those wings?" And I was like, "They're unobtainable now. That quest can no longer be done." And then in Warlords we had the 5 legendary rings, and that quest can no longer be done either. And then of course here we are in Legion, and
wait. What? We just breezed through 2 whole expansions before you stopped talking.
Yeah, because we kind of talked about it before. We talked about it earlier. That's why.
Yeah, so Mists, when everyone got the cloak, like I liked that, you know, the Mists legendaries were cool because me as more of like scroll back up. I need to read.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
2 whole expansions. We're not skipping them.
Well, we talked about them earlier. We did. We talked about them earlier. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that was like really cool because that was obviously the first legendary that I got, you know?
Yeah.
And so like I really liked that. It seemed it was interesting, and I got both. I was playing my Guardian Druid at the time, but I also ended up getting the Feral Cloak as well. That was when I thought like, oh, this is a good Like, that was the first time where I was like, oh, I like this way of doing legendaries where
well, in Mists of Pandaria,
everyone
too,
can earn it with a specific questline doing a specific thing, and it's good for your spec, and it just seemed to make sense.
Well, not only that, but in Mists of Pandaria, I think there's actually an old video on my channel. You had to do like a miniature mage tower-y type class challenge in order to earn it that involved being okay at your class. You had to be okay. I'm not saying you had to be the best, but you had to have a solid grasp on what was going on around you. Yeah. So I also really liked Mist. The only thing I did not like is that they had that world boss, Ordos, who was gated by the legendary cloaks. So you couldn't go do Ordos on alts because it wasn't account wide.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the cape on my druid, which is all a bummer anyways, because I ended up respecking, and now I pretty much only play resto on my shaman, and I do have the cloak for elemental, not for resto.
Yeah. So for warlords, it was like a very similar system, but they changed it a little, right? So instead of them all being cloaks, like they're all rings now, and then you got them through a quest line similar.
You upgraded them. They started out as epic, and then as you played,
and as you did the raid, they got better. And so the main change that they made in warlords was they gave them an on use that was like shared with everyone who had that item, and I absolutely hated that. I hated that completely. Like, I was a tank. There was one other tank, and the person that I tanked with would pop his on pull every time. I'm looking at you, Oki.
I'm sorry, Oki. He's talking mad shit right now.
But anyways, like, I hated not being in control of my own cooldown. Like, not just from a tank perspective, but when I was DPS as well.
And that's not to say he did anything wrong. It's just that everybody has their own play styles, and this is just on an aside from this video, I'm like, I hate DPS meters. I hate logs. I think there's a time and place for those things, but I think as for 90% of the player base, they really only serve as like, I'm doing so good right now, or and then people think just because they're highest DPS that they're doing great when they might not be doing mechanics at all, or I do not like that kind of stuff.
Oh, we've had a few of those in our raid. But I'm top damage.
My body.
You're doing 0 mechanics, and you caused us to wipe.
And 3 times.
Goodbye.
My favorite is when people would die and then want another lust, and you're like, you did this so that you'd be on top of the DPS. Friggin' rogues. Yeah. But anyways, so I kind of hate DPS meters and stuff like that, and I think with that shared cooldown, they were kind of really implying, okay, there's one right way to use this. There's one appropriate time to use this, and I think that...
And I honestly don't think that it was as big of a deal for DPS, because it's like, oh, we bloodlusted. We're clicking it.
Yeah.
I think it was more of an issue for tanks and healers.
See, that makes sense, though, but then if you look at, again, I keep using Elemental Shaman
But it also
example.
only had like a 2-minute cooldown, so it's not like you'd only use it during lust. Like, you get used several times.
But like, as somebody who does high DPS, high AoE damage, I'll sometimes not blow my cooldowns when everybody else does, because I'd rather do it on a phase where like, oh god, there's so many imps, we need to kill all the imps. Now I'm going to use my cooldowns. And I hate any situation where I am not in control of my cooldowns. I much prefer the new rings that drop off of Argus that are random procs. I'd rather, if it's going to be shared, that it would be random and not chosen. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. All right. Now... Legion. So we've definitely talked a lot about this already. Obviously, there's hundreds of legendary items in Legion, and the vast majority of them can be dropped from all sorts of sources, like dungeon bosses, raid bosses, world bosses, emissary caches, arena wins, rated, unrated BG wins, PvP strong boxes, Mythic Plus weekly caches, rare mobs, treasures, Blingtron gift packages, relinquished gear tokens, Paragon reputation bags. You can also get them from the Veiled Argonite. Well, you can't get the relinquished anymore. Now it's Veiled Argonite. Yeah. And then the lesser and greater invasion point bosses. Did I say Paragon reputation bags? I think I did. But a lot of stuff that any real difficult or like challenging PvE content, for the most part, you can get legendaries. But I just think the drops are too rare. And like PvP wins too. Like
I said that.
I know. So you can get these like basically anywhere, like just by playing the game, and that's how they wanted it to be. Just like we talked about before, I just think that the way the randomness of the legendaries and how huge the gap is between legendaries for the same class, like your best in slot versus your worst, is like night and day. Like, one of them will not affect your DPS at all, and the other one will like triple it.
Well,
or
that's
put you
another
way
issue
ahead
is
of
that
the meters.
like, so they kind of advertise legendaries as like, oh, this is going to be so fun, and every time you drop, it's going to be like a freak out moment, right? Except that so often in my guild, something will drop and people will be like, LOL, grats.
Yeah.
Because it's like garbage and you're never going to use it.
Grats on losing inventory space.
Yeah,
You'll never get it back.
Have fun with that bad luck protection, you know what I mean? It's just... Ugh, yucky.
Yeah, and then it compounds it and it makes it worse because then when you do you get a random one and it's not the one you want and you know you have to do that much more to get the next one, which could also be not the one you want.
There was a running joke in my guild that there's another shaman in my group and sometimes he plays off-spec resto and his first legendaries was the Praetorian Tidecallers that I wanted. Mm-hmm. And he actually was saying for a long time that it was more likely that he would get a duplicate Praetorian Tidecallers before I would ever get mine. Because it was like every time I got a legendary, it was like another ridiculous that nobody wants legendary. But in addition to all of those drops we were just talking about, there's also the Amanthul's Vision, which is personal loot off of Argus, has a very rare chance to drop. And then there's the Insignia of the Grand Army, which is the quest item you get from Argus. Every other one is just random drop, and I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it. I don't like it. This
new system now, I mean, it's still
the
even
Legion
if you
system?
farm, the 735 where you're actually you're still getting a random legendary.
Yes,
you get to pick the spec, but you're still getting a random legendary, which means for my Unholy Death Knight, where how many legendaries does each one have? 8?
No more, like
10,
12.
12?
Yeah.
So my Unholy Death Knight, where I have 4 of the 12, one of which is my shoulders. So that's 4 out of 12. There's 8 left. One of the 8 are the ones I need.
I mean,
so
you could theoretically now then get it. I mean, if you did all of the ways that you could get your essences each week, you could theoretically get it in like 2 months minimum. If you got them last.
That's
if you got
besides
them,
the point. The point is you're still going to
now.
invest a ton of fucking time to farm these out, to get these tokens, and then you're just going to get a legendary you don't need or want.
I think a better way to handle this would have been to allow us to disenchant the legendaries that we don't want, and you could turn in like 4 disenchanted legendaries for a targeted legendary in the slot that you want. You still might not get... Because some ones have like 2
honestly,
rings or something.
I still think that's like convoluted and too much. Like, I think that for every spec, after you get 2 legendaries, you should be able to pick your third one. Like, just straight up pick it. Like, it's so silly that like all of this is the way it is. There's
been a lot of RNG in this expansion to begin with, and I understand that's always going to be an element to WoW and any MMORPG. But Ian, chill a lot, dog.
Like. Sure, you want to make them random, right? I get 2 random legendaries for any spec. The third, every single legendary drop after that should just be a token, and you can go to a vendor and you can buy the legendary you want for that spec.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I'm just really really disappointed with the legendary system and how much RNG it took in this expansion.
Well, and
other than that, like, the expansion's been great.
Yeah,
it's my only criticism.
Yeah, no, this expansion, let me reiterate, I also think Legion is one of my favorite expansions, if not my favorite expansion, especially content-wise.
Yeah.
I loved the non-linear leveling, I loved the story, I loved how every single patch we're getting this huge amount of new PvE content. We got the Broken Isle, the Broken Shore, we got Argus. Argus was huge, we've gotten new dungeons, new raids, like we've gotten a lot of content, and even like little stuff like pet battle dungeons, and like they had the Falcosaur mounts that you could raise from little baby Falcosaurs, and like they've really done a great job with content. The
Nighthold, not Nighthold, I'm sorry, but the Nightfallen questline.
Yeah. Still
my favorite story in the whole every expansion ever. My favorite, like,
are you
actual
gonna play a Nightborn? Are you
story?
excited?
Yeah, for sure. Because I just think it was really cool to be able to be part of like saving an entire race, and I actually wish that there could have been a little more after the Nighthold raid. Like, it saddened me a little bit that whole story just stopped right there.
Well, it won't, because with allied races there'll be a whole new set.
Yeah, I mean, it'll continue in later when Allied Races come out, or which those are probably going to be the expansion.
No. So we know for a fact that you're going to get 4 out of the 6 of the Allied Races before the launch of the expansion. We just don't know when that is. A lot of data was put in 7.3.5, including all of the requirements of how to unlock them, cutscenes on when you unlock them, their customization, their gear, their all these things. But they're not going to come with this. That's going to be one of those switches that they flip. They're going to put in all the data in 7.3.5, and then whenever they decide, probably with the event, the big event a month before the expansion.
If I had to guess, it'll be the pre-expansion patch.
Yeah, it might be a little earlier because obviously 7.3.5 is going to be revamping the whole leveling system, which, side note, and by the way, I've got some really exciting stream news coming up. Not today, but soon. And I think me and Nick were talking last night. I think I'm going to do when 7.3.5 comes out and there's a whole new leveling system. I think I'm going to have a character that I play only on stream that's doing Lore Master from scratch, because Lore Master is now done in chapters instead of number of quests. So it'll be so neat to go through the whole story with everybody. Because when I stream, I like to read all the quests and really immersify myself in the World of Warcraft experience.
So staying on the whole Nighthold storyline thing, I really hope that whenever they do continue that they put a lot of emphasis on the tree, which I forgot what type of tree they were called.
It was the
but
the one in the middle of the...
Yeah, but the where you actually go and Falris is there, and the tree, obviously, throughout the quest line, over time it grows, and then you finally get the fruit, which helps them break the addiction.
Well, you know that Suramar will be a city that you can, be in.
Yes.
Okay.
But I'm going to be very, very disappointed if planting and growing those trees in Suramar is not part of the story.
Yeah, well, they can't move this. They can't move it from Meridil, though.
No, it doesn't have to be moved. You can have more than one tree. It's not the only tree. There used to be many cities like that, and they all lived off of those trees.
Oh, so you want trees? Well, they're not on the PTR. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah,
because there's changes already that there's an uninstanced version of Nighthold, which will serve as the city hub for Nightborn when they come out, and there's portals to other cities and stuff. But I don't think any of the aesthetics of Nighthold have changed.
Right.
But I'm sorry about your fruit.
Yeah, no, so I just think it would be really cool to see them kind of rebuilding after, because I really hope that they don't take Suramar as a city and it's just the same.
It kind of is, but
because,
that's just
the Legion assaulted your city and took over, and then we made war on it to take it back.
Yeah, but it's the way it is afterwards. So there's no more I don't think there's first of all, it's not anywhere that you went that was instanced won't be part of the city. You know how when you go up the stairs at that one point?
Yeah.
I think there'll be an invisible wall or something.
Yeah.
I don't think you can go past that. So I don't think you'll see any evidence of fell corruption or demons or anything like that. I think that I have to hold judgment on that because what's on the PTR now doesn't really mean shit compared to what will be...
Oh, yeah, and I'm not even talking about PTR. I haven't even seen the PTR. I'm just talking, just me personally as far as story goes. I just want to be part of, the recovery,
trees aren't faring well in Battle for Azeroth. Let me just put that out there. It's a bad expansion for trees. Burn it to the ground, baby! So those are our thoughts on Legendaries. So what do you think about Battle for Azeroth? Would you like them to add Legendaries? And if so, which expansion would you like them to most closely mirror?
So, wait, that's a silly question, right? Isn't the heart of
No,
Azeroth...
that's an artifact. That's much more similar to an artifact.
Oh, right, and they said that they have no current plans for Legendaries.
They have no current plans for Legendaries, but they're open to
no current plans for Legendaries.
If they were to add a Legendary, what system would you want them to most closely use? For me, it would definitely be Mists of Pandaria.
Probably Mists of Pandaria. But I would rather have the Legendaries. So I like the idea of it's one slot. Everyone gets the same slot. You pick whatever spec, blah, blah, blah. I also like the idea of that being a ring.
Oh, so it's not moggable. It doesn't change.
And it doesn't take up a set slot. And it's not moggable.
But so the system of Mists of Pandaria, but with a trinket or a ring or a neck or something that wasn't...
Without a shared on use.
Of course, that's the big thing.
No shared on use.
So
okay, but wait, I wasn't done.
Oh.
But I also I think the method for getting it should be closer tied to the Lore Master achievement than raiding achievements.
Oh, so you think it should have to do more with, like, the story of the expansion as opposed to one specific raid? Yep. I think that's how it was in Mist. I think Mist, because you didn't get it until, like, the last raid. Like, you didn't get it for a while.
And I guess technically they're supposed to be, because the raid is really, the raid story is just a continuation of the quest story, right? Mm-hmm. But no, like, I mean, like, I think the Lore Master achievement should be a prerequisite of the quest to get your legendary. The Lore Master achievement.
I wish that we had gating, though, on raids. Like, I wish that you had to do all the quests with the story leading up. I think everything should be account-wide, so once you've done it on one character, it counts for all characters. Mm-hmm. But I think the idea of attuning for a raid is good. I don't think it's bad. I mean, as somebody who, it's hard because our raid group is on the casual side. We do heroic content, and we always get ahead of the curve and stuff, but we're pretty chill. And something like that would be bad for our group because a lot of people only really log on to raid.
Yeah.
But, like, especially in the beginning of the expansion when everybody wants to raid, it would be a nice thing to have, like...
Well, I don't think that's as much of an issue anymore with LFR, right? Because the people who wouldn't have attuned would just do LFR anyways.
Well, I would hope you wouldn't be able to do any of the raids if you didn't attune. I don't... then again, you know me. I like questing, so it's hard for me to understand people who play... Like, and I know there's a lot of people. I'm not really saying it's weird. I'm saying it's hard for me to personally understand people who play MMORPGs that hate questing. It's like the whole game. I don't understand. Like, and I'm not, that's not me shaming, because I also don't PvP, and people are like, you play a competitive game. You play World of Warcraft, and you don't participate in the war aspect of it. So, like, I'm bull as well. But anyways, these are our thoughts on the Legendary catch-up coming in 7.3.5. Legendaries over the years in Azeroth. And
some just personal rants and musings.
Some little musings in there for you. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful weekend, and we will see you in the future. That's nice hair, Niko. Oh, Niko cut his hair. I don't think you've seen it. Oh, you're making me dizzy. You're making me dizzy. We're going to go. I hope you're having a wonderful day.
I'm dizzy.
We love you all. Hey. You're in our hearts. We'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.